Start recording. Right, friends. So let's start the session. We will be looking at the Jupyter notebooks, and of course, I'll also be talking about the code execution spider also. All right, and okay. Before I start, Anuj Kumar has a question. This is something which is a generic question. I need to address this. Do we need Anaconda as we can access Jupyter Notebook online? If you are trying to work with Jupyter Notebook online, then you don't need Anaconda. We can also work with Google Colab, absolutely. Saga, you can do that, yeah. All right, so let me start the session. We started understanding the Python capabilities yesterday, Python programming. The language has a lot of benefits that we tried to understand yesterday. And the best of the lot, right? I cannot choose one or two, but I would try to highlight few of them. This basically is interactive programming language. Python programming is an interactive programming language. It is also iterative. Okay, it can also be iterative. I mean, repeated. You want to do the same task again and again, you can do that. Right? Interactive, iterative, then I say scalable. It has functional oriented capabilities, object oriented capabilities, right? English like language, high level, that is, right? So this is called as high level. And it is very, very versatile because it is generic based programming language, general purpose programming language, right? And yeah, there are object oriented capabilities also, polymorphism, inheritance, all those things will come into the picture. And the best for us as a data science community, right? We come from data science community, data analysts. For us, the beauty is that it is functional oriented. And thanks to this capability and of course open source nature, a lot of functions are readily available for us to deal. So you'll just have to download these modules, which are nothing but collection of functions. And once they are downloaded, once they are installed into your system, you would call the functions in those modules and get your task done. You'll be applying that on the data and you're getting a solution done. Right? So that is the benefit that we have. Now, let us jump into the programming. Right. Now, just to revise you people, if you want to use the online based platforms, then do search jupyter.org. Search for this. Or you can also say Google Colab, collaboratory. You can say Google Colab. Either this or that. Yeah. So this is jupyter.org. Jupyter notebooks, right? These options are there. We click on Jupyter notebook. Try in your browser. This notebook is already installed for us. We are installing, we are not using that. We are using this browser based Jupyter interface. And here you are trying Jupyter Lab. So click on this. You can also use Classic Notebook. When you're trying to write the codes, you'll be anyways using Classic Notebook. You can start installing or loading this. Then here, let me cancel this. Or you can also say new notebook. Let it boot up. It's taking a little while. Yeah, this is my Google Colab. I'm saying new notebook. Under file, you have new notebook. Slowly creating. Still loading. And guys, before I proceed further, any further, yesterday's video has not been shared yet. Okay, you've not seen that video. I'm getting this Python sessions directly onto YouTube channel. It will not be available on LMS, don't worry. It will be available on YouTube so that you will be able to directly access via YouTube itself. You should be getting the link by end of the day tomorrow.
Sir, at least from tomorrow onwards, it will be added to LMS so that for lifelong access.
You will
We
not get
can refer.
LMS videos. You will not have access to LMS, Sundar. As I said, you will get the codes in LMS, but the videos are getting in YouTube.
If it is added in the
Or
LMS, it will be helpful, sir. Because in future, if you want to refer, right, you directly you can go.
Sundar, I'm saying the access will be there on YouTube. How does that matter if it is in LMS or in YouTube?
No, one
You'll be able to
repository.
access, right?
A repository we maintain LMS. We can go there anywhere and then see. Okay, fine, sir. No issues.
No, you will have link to your YouTube video in LMS. From
Then
LMS
fine.
also it will be redirected.
Then fine, sir. If it is a link is there, then it's good to go, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
And this particular codes that we are using, those things will be there in your LMS. Those things also will be available by tomorrow.
Sure, sir. If the link is there, no issue, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Mangala, as I said, the codes will also be there available tomorrow. Right. So let me load the code here so that you will also be aware. And let me go to C drive. Okay, not this. Users. I have this folder. Here I have, where is C? Yeah, cool. Notebooks. And then I'm loading my first notebook. Okay. Yeah, this is how we basically load the data. And where is it got loaded? Yeah, it's getting loaded here. So double click it.
So disadvantage of this online browser is something if the session it crashes, browser crashes, what are the things that we have done till now, it will be saved or it will be gone. That's it.
I've already mentioned that will not be saved. You'll not have this saved. You'll have to redo.
Okay.
The session will get cancelled. It's like Spider. If I close it, the entire session is gone, right?
Okay. At least if we are doing in standalone, we can see that one.
Okay. Yeah. So let us proceed. We have Jupyter Notebook. I'm using Jupyter Notebooks. You can try and do it on Colab or Jupyter Lab. So I can double click this and it will launch my notebook. Right. Now, let me talk a little bit of theory before I start explaining the code. Okay. Yeah. We will start with data types, friends. Yeah, you can do with me also. It's simple code. When you have a lengthy codes, that's when I would not want you people to try type it. But otherwise, yes, please do it along with me. That way you'll experience. Right. So data types, this is what we need to understand. And these data types in Python or in any programming language to begin with would be integer. We'll have float, right? We will have complex numbers. Then we will probably have string data, right? So yeah, these are predominantly the four different data types that we have. Data structures, rather, I would say. And Python also, we have integers, float, then we have complex numbers, and of course the character data. And yes, we also have Boolean type. Boolean type will always be either true or false. Only two options, true or false. This is called as a Boolean type, right? Binary. So if you talk about Python execution, now you can write single cell. You can write your single command here and execute it. It will execute. To execute in Jupyter Notebooks, you have to press this run button. Jupyter Lab, you can just execute cell by cell, or you can to create another cell. You can type this plus symbol and then say print of 1 or print of 5. And then click on this button. This is run the selected cells and advance. And when you're executing in Jupyter Lab, make sure you have this kernel set. That kernel would be on the right side top corner. If you see no kernel, that means you'll not be able to execute it. Okay. Similarly, you have Colab as well. Here also you can type and execute. Yeah. Execute is, where is this execute? Why is it not showing? Yeah, it's still connecting. Yeah, connected. Yeah, so you press this button. Once it is connected, you press this button and it will get executed. This is Google Colab. Right? In any of these interfaces, the background execution body or engine is Python only. Okay? Okay, somebody is asking a question. What is your question, Upendra? What is your question? Did I miss your question?
No, sir, everything is clear till now.
And Upendra had a question, so I'm just trying to have.
No, sir, I
What is your question, Upendra? Please post it. Oh, you're Upendra, is it? Yeah, Upendra. What is your question? Sorry.
Sir, actually, I just wanted to tell you that kindly clear the doubt after the session, sorry, delivery has been over, or after some time, because otherwise the entire session is passing on and we are not having any conclusion.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely. I completely agree with you, Upendra. We'll do that.
thank you.
If there is any important question that needs to be discussed, I'll take questions. Okay, any specification of system required like internal RAM? Not required for the basic laptop should be good enough. Okay, yeah. So let's move on. Right, so I'm basically showing you the 3 different interfaces. One is Google Colab, which is freely available. You can start using it. The other one is just Jupyter Lab notebooks. These are all freely available. You can try to do that. Then we have the local Jupyter notepads. If you have installed your software, Anaconda software, you will be able to access. Here you will press this run button to execute one cell. This one box that you are seeing is called as a cell. Okay, I'm talking about the interfaces, friends. And this is your input. So Python would treat this part as the input that the user is trying to execute. If there is any output that needs to be shown to the user, then you will get something called as out here. And this sequence number would be there. Whenever you're executing a line, right, in Jupyter, it assigns a sequence number to it. And if there is any output, that output will also have the same corresponding sequence. Here, there is no sequence number because I have not executed this particular cell. Now I'll execute this. Look at this. Because I've executed this after this line, it is showing sequence number 2. Now, very important point, the print command. Print command basically is reflecting the values that you are passing in the bracket. Okay, it's a command which prints this part. So it's not an output that you are seeing here. Okay, so let me show you the difference. So I'll take this one line. Print 1, right? Print of 1. So what is it doing? It is just publishing this on the console. Okay, if I say this command print 2 plus 4, I'll say 1 plus 4. The output that it is printing is by doing the summation. Okay, 5. But I can also do the same code using 1 plus 4. I'm creating a new cell and I'm writing 1 plus 4, just like this. But I'm not using print command here. When I do that, you can see Python is executing this mathematical equation and then it throws an output. It's not saving the information anywhere. It is publishing the output on the console. Whereas this print 1 plus 4, this command is saying whatever there is in the parentheses, this brackets, right? Print command is going to publish that in the console. It is not an output, calculated output. That is the difference between this command and this command. Okay, be very, very, very vigilant with this print command. It is just publishing what is there in the parentheses. All right, so this is basically your print command. Next, if you want to execute multiple lines here, we can do that. Just press like this entire cell and you get this. So you can do that in the Google Colab Jupyter notebook as well. You execute it, you get this, right? You might want to type in, copy and paste this code, type multiple lines. Okay, let me just do a Control C rather than Control. I'll print it out. And then I'll execute it. So it is executing the output. Okay, this way you can do it. I'm not going to run every time all the 3 consoles. I will be executing it only in one interface. You might try it whatever the interface that you are doing, right? You try in your interface. Now these are notebook, right, commands. I mean the same commands, but the interfaces that you are doing is Jupyter notebooks. Now there is another interface, Spider. Yeah. Now in this Spider, or let me take a new sheet. Okay. Okay, request everyone to be careful with your cameras. All right. So this is like a plain notebook, a text page. And I'm typing my code here, print 1. A is equals to 15, type A, right? It's like a notepad. Now to execute this part of the code, in Spider, each line can be executed separately. There is no cell concept. Cell would occur in Jupyter interface, right? This is one cell. Whereas in Spider, there is no cell component or concept. If you want to execute line by line, you can do that. Or if you say that, no, I want to execute all at a time, then you select all this content and execute. You get 1636, right? So this is how you get the output. Now, the problem here is because you have print command, it is printing those things out, right? But if I execute line by line, see the difference. If I execute line by line, it is printing 1, right? Print command, very good. Then I'm assigning a value to A. Okay, I'm assigning a value to A. Now this is the beauty of Spider. That's the reason, right? I prefer to use it. I can look at the variables and all those things very easily here. Okay, but whereas here you have to do, right, manipulations. You need to understand where your variables are, right? What all variables you have. All those things have to be done. Not sure if ls works. Yeah, so this is a command ls, which basically is like a Windows command prompt command, which shows directory contents. These are all the folders that we have in that particular location, files and folders. Okay, this is another command. We'll discuss about this. I just wanted to check whether we are in the right location or not. Yeah. So coming to the spider, as I said, you will be able to have the benefit of looking at what variables you have created, right? What variables you have assigned and all that. Now, before I again proceed, what is a variable? Yeah, friends, what is a variable? Variable is basically a memory pointer. In the programming terminology, it's a memory pointer. Pointer to your location. Okay, that's the programming definition. Variable does not store a value. It is only a pointer to your memory location where the data is getting stored. Right? So here I'm writing, or I'm trying to save a number in the memory, and then I'm pointing that location, the data which is stored in the memory, using a pointer A. Now the beauty of Python programming, or for that matter R programming, the functional oriented programming languages, is that you don't have to define, declare, assign values to your variables. If anybody is from Java background or C background, C programming background, you know, we have to first define variable. Then we need to declare on what kind of values will this variable can have. And then we assign values to the variable. Right? Define, declare, and assign. And only then you will be able to use that variable for any mathematical computations. The beauty of this Python programming here is you do not have to declare or define. Directly you assign the value. And Python is going to take care of the data type, the data structure, whether it is an integer or a float or a complex number or a string, right? It will automatically take care of that. So here I'm saying A is equal to 15, right? And you can see here A has been defined. That's the variable name. In Spider, you can see variable explorer here. We have A, and then the data type is also identified, integer. It's clearly saying it is integer. Right? Then we have one value assigned to it. One is single value, and that value is 50. And that value is 50. So you can check the data type by using type function. Type command would tell us what is the data type for that particular variable. So variable A is holding a value which is integer. Yeah, but when you're executing this cell, it is not printing that output, if you observe here. But when I execute it individually, line by line, it is printing the output here. Right? So that is another difference that you have to remember. Next is about integer, friends. We can also do float, just like integer, but you have decimals here. So I'll say x is equals to 44.2353. Oops, what is this? Right? I'm assigning a value. Now, in order to execute this line, you have to press this black button. And what happens? The variable is created here. X is created and the data type is float. and it is taking the value 44.2353. What is the value that you have? If you say type of A here, or type of X, sorry, and you execute this line, then it says float. Now the execution can be done in two ways. One is clicking on this button, run selection or current line, or you can also press function F9 or F9 button. Function F9 or F9 button. Right? So that is basically your float type. Then we also have complex numbers. Right? 2 plus 3j, complex numbers. Right? A plus bx, that complex representation. So this is your complex number. It says type is equals to complex. Then we have Boolean type. I'm saying true, type of true, type of false. It clearly tells that it is a Boolean type. Boolean and Boolean. Right? You can basically type your commands and check here. Either your Spider, or you can also do it in Jupyter, or you can say type of true. When you're typing, right, it gives you prompts also like this, and press enter. On enter. So this is how we execute the line, one single line. Okay, so either you press this black button or say function F9 in Spider. Here we press this run button to execute that cell. All right, next. The very important aspect that we need to look at is, sorry, where did I remove it? Yeah. Operators. Operators basically are the components or the I should say component in Python programming which helps us achieve certain operations. Hence they're called as operators, right? And there are different types of operators. You need to look at the equal to symbol first. Before any other operator, we need to look at this equal to symbol first. Now this equal to symbol that you are using here is called as assignment operator. You're getting some operation done, right? You said A is equals to 10 or 11, whatever that number is. So this equal to symbol is giving the Python an instruction saying that this value will have to be, right, represented by this A variable. So this is assignment operator. Okay, then we have arithmetic operators. We'll go back to assignment operators. There are different types of assignment operators that we need to learn. So first and foremost is arithmetic operations. Now when you say arithmetic operations, it is multiplication, plus, minus, divided by, double divided by, percentile. You have basic operations. So let us do this execution. So first assign values. You take any two values. Okay, assign any value here. A is equals to 10, B is equals to 20. I am assigning these values. Execute A, execute B. Then we say A plus B. This is the first operator that I am executing. So what would I get A plus B? It should simply do addition of the values that the variables are pointing to. Plus symbol, right? Just adding 30. And your Python is executing this, and the result has to be shown somewhere or stored somewhere. I'm not giving any storage location, right? I'm not saving anywhere. So Python is printing the output like this. You can do a minus b or b minus a. Addition will not have any difference, but here if you see, a minus b is minus 10, b minus a is 10, right? So this way you will have the subtraction. You can also do multiplication. Sorry. You can also do multiplication, or you can do division. 0.5. Yep. So this is basically your division. Okay. Voice is breaking. I thought I've rectified the problem, but I think it is resurfacing. How about now? Is it okay or still shaky? Not clear. For a few people, again, it is clear. For a few people, it is not clear. Okay, majority says not clear. Really? Yeah, we'll try something. Yeah, how about now? Is it still not clear? No problem in voice. Now it is clear, is it? Yeah, I'm on hotspot, guys. I'm actually, as I said yesterday, right? I'm traveling. So I'm still having some right hotspot issues, internet issues. Tomorrow I should be reaching back home, so I don't think tomorrow you'll have any issues. Yeah, just for a day, probably another 1 hour. You have to try to be with me. Additional. I don't have anyone, Sundar. I mean, probably a devil speaking in my.
I mean, not human noise, sir. I mean, some noise, right? That is coming up.
That's the network issue. That's a network issue. I really cannot help from that perspective. Just 1 more day, friends. Yeah, just be with me for today. From tomorrow, you should not have this problem. Okay. Unfile temp.py. Your current location is having some issues, Mangla. That's the reason. Try restarting your Spider using or your Anaconda Navigator using administrator and check if you're still getting that issue. Okay. Try do that, Mangla. In the meantime, let me proceed. Interesting operators are coming here. So we did addition, we did subtraction, we did multiplication, and we did division. But there is something called as floor division. Okay, and we also have remainder calculations and exponential calculations. 3 things. So let us try and do this. Now, what we are getting here when I do A divided by B, it's a simple division, right? So we are A is 10, B is 20. So I'm doing 10 by 20, and this is basically 0.5, right? Now what I'm getting here, I'm doing A double slash B. I'm getting 0. What is this? Anyone? A double slash B is 0. What exactly is this?
Sir, it's a floor division.
Yeah, what does that floor division mean? Yeah, Pradeep is correct.
It omits the decimal part.
So whenever the value will be
That's
less
correct.
than 0.5, then the value will be omitted. Only
Yes.
complete part will be shown.
The integer value is,
Yes, sir. Complete part will be shown.
yes. Right. It is rounding off basically. Rounded off to nearest integer. Okay, that's generally what we get in our billing section. To any retail market, supermarket, they generally round it off, right? So that's exactly what it is doing. So from 0.5, 0.5, it is omitting that decimal value and it is taking only 0. Right? This is floor division. Okay. Now, how about this? What will I get here? A percentile B. Very good. Yes. Percentile B is, percentile basically is giving you the reminder. So if you are dividing, right, 10 by 20, you're saying A divided by, 10 divided by 20. If you're dividing it, you're getting a reminder as 10. Reminder as 10. Right? So that's exactly what it is showing. It's not the, what do you call it? It's not a quotient, but it is a reminder. Right? So percentile and slash and double slash, 3 different division operations are there. Then we will do double star multiplication. If I do A double star B, then what I'm getting?
Sir, how come that A is the percentile B
I can
is
add
10? Can you come again on that?
simple mathematics. You have to do the division. Try and do the division. It's
I mean,
a reminder that we're
A
talking about.
A percentage B, yeah.
Full division, you'll get the reminder. That reminder is what it is showing. School mathematics. Yeah, quotient is 0. Yeah, that's correct. All right. So A percentile, A double star B basically means A power B. Right? Exponent. So 10 power 20. This is what you get. Double star means multiplication. Okay. So we have seen plus, we have seen the multiplication, we have seen division, we have seen subtraction, we have seen 3 different types of division. All these are arithmetic operators. We call it as arithmetic operators. Right? Basically, these are used for doing basic mathematical computations, simple mathematical computations. Right? So that's to begin with, your arithmetic operators. Then we move on to look at comparison operators. Now, when I say comparison operators, we are basically saying multiple things here. If you put a single equal to, then it is an assignment operator. If you put double equal to, then you're cross checking whether they are equal or not. So for example, A double equal to B means you're checking whether A is equal to B or not. A not equal to B, right? This is another check. We are saying whether they are equal or not equal. Then you can check A greater than B or A less than B, or you can also say A greater than or equal to B or A less than or equal to B. So these different operations can be done, and these are your comparative operators or relational operators. Now, what would be the output of these relational operators? Yeah, here we have arithmetic operators. And here we have relational operators. The output of these relational operators would always be true or false, right? Remember the data type that we have seen for true or false? It's Boolean. So the output of any of your relational operators will be a Boolean output. Oh, okay. I see a lot of messages. Yes, very good. Yeah, Boolean operations is what you are going to get here. So let us run this. A, is this double equal to B? Is 10 equal to B, which is 20? No, right? 10 is not equal to 20. False. Is 10 not equal to B? That is 10 not equal to 20? Of course it is not equal, right? So you'll get true. You're going to get that true. Then A is greater than B. Is 10 greater than 20? No, right? False. Is 10 less than 20? Yes, true. Is 10 greater than or equal to 20? False. Is 10 less than or equal to 20? Yes, true. These are relational operators. Then we have interesting assignment operators, right? So let us deal with this assignment operator. I'm going to show you here. These are all the multiple assignment operators. I'm combining these assignment operators along with arithmetic operators and show you how we can play around with, right, the iterative task. I mean, you can do iterative task, especially when you're learning in future loops, right? You'll be able to use these things, which is similar to your C programming. You have this concept. So if I say A plus B, then I would get an answer as 30. Now, if I assign this value like this, then C is 30, right? If I say C here and execute, it says 30, right? C is 30. Now you can also do this calculation. C is equals to plus equal to, let's say, A. Yeah, this one. C plus equal to A. What will happen if I do this? This is basically nothing but C is equals to C plus A. So C is already 30. C is already 30 and A is 20. Sorry, A is 10, my bad. So 30 plus 10. It will be giving you a result as 40. And that 40 will be stored back into C. That is important. You're assigning the value that you're calculating back to the same variable C. Now, if you see this variable c, it shows that it is 40. You can also do the same thing, c space minus equal to a. Now what will happen to c? It will go back to 30. So this is nothing but c is equals to c minus a. Right? So that's assignment operator. You can do c multiplication equal to a. Your c will become 300 now. You can say c divide equal to a. You will get c divided as c is equals to c by a, right? So 300 by 10, so 30. Then c double equal to a. It becomes 3 now. 30 divided by 10, right? So it becomes 3 now. So this way you can play around with your assignment operators. All the basic arithmetic operations that we have done, right, including percentile equal to or double star equal to, all those things will basically do what? C is equal to C plus the arithmetic operation, right, along with that other variable that you are passing, this like this. This is assignment operators. Then we have bitwise operators. Now this is a little tricky. The values are internally going to be converted as bits, bit values. Okay, let me do that. Yeah. So what I'm doing here is I'm assigning value A 60, B as 30. Okay. Now, if you use this function called format, you take any number, okay, any random number, and you say format. B means bitwise. Okay. Format 60 comma B. So it is converting that number into bits. Okay. 13 also will be converted into bits. Right? So this is internally converting the value to bitwise levels. Now, on top of this, I have a little bit of operations here. Okay. So if I say format A comma A, same value, right? A is 60. So it is converting that into bitwise. Just like directly pass the value or use variable, it gives you the same result. Now on this, you are doing binary AND operation. Right? Binary AND operation. A and B. And format that value. Now when you do A and B, you will not be able to explain how is it, right, converting that 60 and 13 to 12. But when you do the format in the backend, this is basically doing a bitwise operation here. And operation is basically doing a bitwise operation. So how is this calculated? 1 1 1 1 0 0. This is your 60. 1 1 0 1 is 13. Now what does that AND operator do? AND operator will give you 1 only when both of them are 1. Right? When you are doing this operation, if both are ones, only then you will get 1. So this becomes 0, this becomes 0, this is 1 and this is 1. This is what you get. Here you will not have any operation, you will not calculate anything. So that is what you are getting here, bitwise operator. And this is 12. We also have OR operator. I am doing OR operation here. So when I do OR operation,
where exactly it is used, sir?
I'll have don't ask all the applications every time. It is, I'm It may not be applicable for you.
Okay. Okay.
We're just talking about the capabilities, just capabilities.
Sure.
Yeah. Wherever it is applicable, we'll discuss that. These are
Definitely.
capabilities, friends. I'm again repeating. These are different operators that we have in Python. We are just trying to learn few concepts. Okay, so we are basically talking about OR operation. When you take two different values and you are trying to apply OR operator, in the backend it is converting that into binary format or bit format. Sorry. Now, what is this? If I do OR operation on this, what will I get? Even if 1 is there in one position, if you see one value 1, then your OR gate will give you 1. At least 1 should be there. Both zeros means 0. This is 1, this is 1, this is 1, this is 1. This is your output. Yep. So I'll do that, and you can see the result is 61, but that 61 is this. Right? So this is how we basically do OR operator and AND operator at a binary level or your bitwise level. A power B 49 110001. Again, you might want to understand the logic 111100, and you're saying A power B 1101. When you do the bitwise operations, you get this result. Again, as I said, this is required when you're dealing with modular language or machine language. Yeah. So let's not get into that level of coding. That's basically very old machine level coding. That's not required for us now. You need to decode why 60, what is 1, what is 0, how do I learn to coding them. That is a different logic, guys. Let's not get into that. But remember, Python has capabilities: functional oriented, object oriented. It has shell scripting capability, and it is also having modular language capability. Right? So we are trying to just look at those features here. Anyways, we'll move on. So we have seen arithmetic. We have seen relational or comparison. Then we have seen this binary operation or bitwise operations. And now we'll see logical operators. Logical operators are and or, again, same, these and or only, but you're writing it in this way, and or. You can either put that this what do you call the ampersand sign or pipe symbol, or you can also do this and or. So I'm defining three values: a equal to 3, b equal to 2, c equal to c. Okay, a, b, c. A is equals to 3, b is equals to 2, c is equals to 0. I'm saying a and b. Right? What will I get when I do a and b? I would get true. I would get a value 5. But what I'm getting here? I'm getting 2. Strange. Okay. Okay. right? Then when I do A and B, I'm getting 2. Oh yeah, correct only, right? My bad. It's doing AND operation, right? 1 1 1 0, it will give you the same 1 0 only. The answer is 1 0. You can also do C comma B. So this is 0, bitwise 0, right? Now when I do A and C, what when I do A or B, what do I get? I will get 3. And if I do A or C, A is 3. A is 3. Yeah, A is 3. So I would get 3. A is 3. So I will get 3 only. B or C, then I'll get 2. Because B is 2. Alright. So this is you basically call them as logical operators. Then we have something called as membership operators and identity operators. We'll complete these operators and then we'll go for the bit. So membership operators is basically in and not in function and not in function. So if you observe here, Python in Python, Y in Python, what would be the output here, friends? If I say Y in Python, what should be the output? It should say, yes, Y is present in this particular string. The substring is present in this string. So it should give us true as a result. What would I get here? I'm checking this substring into the string. But when I check this, I will not find that substring. So it will written as false. What would be this? People who are saying true, the answer is false, guys. That is because this substring P is lowercase letter and P here is uppercase letter, right? And Python programming is case sensitive. Remember that. Right? So uppercase should be dealt with uppercase format only. Lowercase has to be handled as lowercase letters. So we have true, false, false and true. Not in means this value is not present here. Of course it is not present here, right? This is uppercase P and this is lowercase p. So it will say true here. Initially it says false, but for this, when you say not in, it says true. Now the same membership operators can also be rewritten using is and not is not. Right? Identity basically means you are doing a comparison. Here you are verifying whether it is present or there, not there. Membership, identity. Here you say in, not in. Here you say is and is not. So Y is Python. Is Y is Python? You are comparing. No, right? It is not. You have so many other words here. 1 is 1. Oh yes, 1 is 1. Is 2 equal to 1? No, right? So this is similar to double equal to. Not is like not equal to. Right? And the output would be Boolean only. false, true, false. Whereas here you have Python is equals to Python. Is it double equal to? Is it true or false? It is false, right? Because here I have uppercase. And this is also false. Where one is not one, this is false. Whereas here, this is also false. Oh, no, this is true. Sorry, my bad. You're checking not equal to here, right? So it is true. False and true is what you get. So these are the different operators that we have. Okay. So we've looked at arithmetic operators. Then we looked at comparison operators, assignment operators, then bitwise. Then we have seen logical, membership, and identity. Right. So this is bitwise. Then I should say logical operators. Then I have membership operators, and then we have identity operators. Yeah. All right. So we completed operators. Okay. Now let us take a break and we'll come back.
Sir, before the break, say for example, in the assignment operator, if there is a date parameter, is it something like DDMMYY format you have to give, or DDMONYY or something? And how about timestamps?
We'll discuss that, Sundar.
Okay, sir. Sure.
We'll discuss that. Timestamp
Sure.
is there in the future. We'll talk about that.
Sure,
Those are
sir.
complex assignments. We'll
Sure,
talk
sir.
about that.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. We can use single inverted comma also. Is it? What do you mean by the single inverted comma? I didn't understand. You're talking about quotes, is it? You're talking about this quote. Is it? Yeah. Python will treat single quote or double quote as same. It really does not right, differentiate. Yeah, we can use. Both are same, Anuj. It's string data that we are talking about. Quotes means inside the quote, whether it is single. On or off? No. On off is different. True false is different. Oh, no, we can't. All right. Hold on to your questions. We have to deal with a lot of stuff, right? Slowly we will be unfolding each and every aspect, right? Probably in another couple of classes you'll see more features. Even after that, when we move to data analysis part, if you feel that something is not covered, then probably you can bring in friends. I mean, any new things that you have doubts on. Format, don't worry about format, Anju. As I said, that is for someone who is writing a machine level coding. For us, it is not required. It's because it is there we are discussing. Format is converting your data into bits. How does your computer understand your data? Ones and zeros, right? That is how the data is getting encoded into your tape device, isn't it? So format function is showing you the bit operation for this value. What is a bit level value? Okay. So don't worry about format. There are a lot of things that you can ignore. Don't look at those things which are not relevant. I'm just explaining or I'm just talking about those things because they are the features of Python. You will not be working on those kind of features. Don't worry about that. Okay, 9:13. So we will connect back at 9:21. So 7 minutes break. We'll resume at 9:21. All right. Yeah. All right, guys. Hope everyone is back here. Jupyter Notebook, try in your browser or install the notebook with option we select one on. Anything is fine, Pradeep. You can try both. Just experiment. Chrome is not allowing if you use try online. Which one? I didn't understand. See, this is the problem. No kernel is something that you have to cross check it because it is showing a scenario occurred and I'm just explaining. Yeah. This is Chrome, Sundar. I'm using Chrome only. For me, it is working. There might be some kind of setting in your system which is not allowing. Pop-ups could be there. You have to check. Yeah, if you can try anything, you need to get this. You can also go to notebook or console. Right, this is something that you get. You can try. Right. Syntax warning: is with a literal. Is with a literal. What is the command that you typed? To cross check the commands. Python is Python. That's working for me, right? Is, when you type this is, right? When you're typing this, do you see this color difference? Are you getting that color difference?
No, I'm not
It
getting
should
it.
work. It's working. So that could be a problem. Not sure. Something is probably not correct in your instance. Syntax warning is with literal. Did you mean? Okay. Try this. Just copy this, but remove that is symbol and put double equal to that. Then see whether it is working or not. In place of is, put double equal to. And where are you executing it? Is it in your local system or is it in your online Jupyter Notebook, Jupyter Lab? Yeah, Naveen, if kernel is not there, there will be no execution at all. Forget about error. There will be no execution. All right. So try that. It should work properly. Who is getting this error? Surender Kaushik. Jupyter Online, Jupyter Lab. Okay, let me type the commands and use it. So I'm saying Python is Python. It will say true. I'm saying true. It's working. Not sure. Probably there might be some syntax typo or something where you're doing. Okay. Just try this as is. Not sure if you're typing anything wrong. Okay, just try this one line at a time. I mean, only this and see. Forget about that 1,0 and check. It should work. It should work. There is no problem in what you're typing. Probably there's be something. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. Yeah, you're getting result, is it? It's a deprecated warning message that you're getting. That's okay. Yeah, it's a warning now. That's fine. Okay. Sorry, I didn't see. Even in the first position, first place also, you got only warning message. Yeah, it's not a. All right. So let's move on, and we'll talk about now data structures, friends. Data structures basically is talking about how you are going to deal with your data. What is the arrangement of your data? Okay. For data analysts, for us, right? We'll start from this. For us, the data has to be in structured format. Okay. To begin with. Now, if your data is in structured format, your system can easily understand your variables X and Y in your structured data. And the schema is also identified, whether it is integer, whether it is float, right? Those things are easily identified when you have structured data, right? And in Python or in programming languages, majority of them, when you say structured data, it is nothing but table representation. Table representation. And the name for this representation in Python is data frame. Okay, remember the name. We are not dealing with data frames now, but remember the name. This is nothing but table. And what is a table by definition? Table is basically a collection of multiple rows. And each row is defined by combination of multiple columns, or it is identified as combination of multiple columns. And each column is basically a data field, right? Each column is nothing but a field. So this is basically your data structure. But what is the least form of data structure? What is the minimum or lowest granular form of data structure? That's something that we need to understand. Generally, the least form of data structure would be a single data point, one value. And that one value we have understood could be integer, float, complex, or if it is non-numeric, if you put quotes, then it is a string or character. Not string, let me change this. Collection of characters becomes string. Character. Right? So these are the data type or data structure for the least granular level of data structure is this. But we might also have to look at multiple values, right? And this is where we need to look at something called as vectors. Now, what is a vector, friends? Anyone? What are vectors? Let us try and understand this. What are vectors? No, it's not a 2D array. But don't talk about array. Don't compare it with array because it is there. You are saying. A row. Okay, very good. Pradeep is correct. A data object, an object which has both magnitude as well as direction. So when you talk about a value, integer or a float or a string or a complex number, it does have only magnitude. But when you also want to talk about direction, say for example, this is your data. This is an X and Y plane. This is a data object. But if I'm saying that hey, this object will move from here to here, you're talking about basically the direction, right? You're saying this will move. So this is vector for us, right? We're talking about a vector, multiple values. So it will start from this number and probably it will go here, right? So these values are vectors in a simple picturizing the value, right? It has index, it is basically sequential, then it has index, it is immutable, sorry, it is mutable. All those features would come into picture. We'll discuss that also. But a vector is, for a definition, is a sequential arrangement of indexed data. When I say indexed, each value can be identified by its position. And the arrangement is in sequential order. Right? Remember this. But when you talk about a vector, right, there is one property that you need to remember, which is it can take only a single data type. It cannot have multiple data types for the values. Remember, it is a sequential arrangement of indexed data, but that indexed data should belong to same data type. That means if you're talking about an integers, then vector will have only integers. If you talk about float values, it will have float values. If you talk about string or sorry characters, it will have only characters. Now that is a drawback, but Python deals with this drawback by eliminating vectors completely. Python does not deal with vectors. Right? Remember this, Python does not deal with vectors. So we are going to look at alternative, right, to vectors, but the first alternative is arrays. Now, what is array definition? We have just understood what is vector, but what is an array? What is an array, guys?
Array is a collection of similar data type, or but here we can have the different also.
Collection of similar array. Okay. Temporary storage of data, collection of similar data types, combination of homogeneous, stored in continuous memory location, rows and columns arrangement of same data type, composition of matrix. Oh God, okay. An array is, in short, arrangement of data which can have multi-dimensional space. I mean, multi-dimensional data, in short. Sorry, multi-dimensional data. And yeah, it can be homogeneous, yes. Homogeneous collection of data. But you have multi-dimensional arrangement, okay? Now, if I talk about a one-dimensional array, then that one-dimensional array can be a vector. But remember, a vector cannot be a one-dimensional, a vector can be a one-dimensional array. But a one-dimensional array may not always be a vector. Okay? Anyways, so if you want to work with vectors, then you deal with arrays, right? Homogeneous data. But in order to work with in order to work with arrays, we need to import the functionality into Python. We need to give that capability to Python. So we will have to import all the functions which are predefined into the session, Python session. So we use this function, or that particular line of command which says from array. From array means there is a module, a big software. You are trying to use multiple capabilities of that particular package. So it's like a big bundle of software codes, functions given to you, and you're saying, I want all of them. It's like array. This is called as array, and in array you'll have multiple, right, functions. So on this array you will be basically saying, okay, I'll choose this function or this function or this function or this function. When you put star, you're basically saying I want all of them. Now when you execute this line, from array import star, Python can help you execute the functions which are available in that particular package. We call it as a package, friends. Okay, when we discuss about packages and modules, you will come to know more about them, but here array can be called as a module. In Python we call them as module, which is nothing but package. Okay, if you're familiar with package terminology, then array is a package. You can interpret that. If you're not familiar with the package terminology, if you're very new to this, then imagine package is like a bundle of multiple things, and we call this as, right, a package because it is having multiple things packaged together. Okay, now I'm importing this array and I'm using a function called array, right? And I'm defining array values to the array, right? So if I do this in Spider, you can also get the documentation very easily. So let me do that. From array import star. So execute this. And then you say, okay, let me copy paste rather than typing such a big code. I'll just copy paste. Yeah. So I'm saying array1 is equal to array of I comma 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Now you might want to know what is that array or what is that I. So if I hover my mouse on that function, look at that documentation. It's like a sticky note. So you click on this and that documentation is available here. Right? Array type code initializer is equal to none, then slash, we're assigning it to array. Return a new array whose items are restricted by type code. Right? And what are those type codes? Here you can see. Different things are there. I means assigned integer. Right? So you're basically defining that these are integers. Right? So you are simply defining an array which has integer value. Please say array like just do that. Basically is each value of the array using this for loop, and then it is printing the output. So let us print this. On yeah, how about now? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Okay. We'll do one thing. I'll talk about this and we'll stop for the day. Tomorrow you'll not have any problem, so we'll continue there. Let me just complete this because we started now, we'll complete it. Okay, so we are talking about assigning, creating an array, and we are saying for x in array, print x. So this is an iteratable object. I mean, it is a repeated values are there, right? For x in array 1, that x will be taking each value at a time, x. Then what you're doing? Print that value. So you'll get 10. Then again it goes back. Now it takes 20, prints it. Next again, prints it. So that way it is moving one position at a time and executing this. So this is how we read the values that your array has. What is the significance of, yeah, I is integer. It's there here. I wanted to show that, and that's the reason why I have shown the documentation. You can see on the screen, I have highlighted also this one. You have small integer, right? Integer, big integer, double, float. Those type codes are given here. So I am creating an array with integer values. Okay. All right. Okay, we'll stop for the day. We'll repeat the data structures, and then we will also talk about 2D arrays, and post that we will look into the matrix, which is nothing but 2D array. But after this, the most interesting thing will come, lists and tuples. Yeah, tomorrow we will be dealing with data structures. Very important session tomorrow. Any programming language will deal with these data structures. I mean, we have to deal with these data structures and play around with the data, right? So don't miss tomorrow's session to understand these concepts. For today, we are stopping. How to get documentation? Okay. So I will hover my mouse here. Right? In Spider, I'm talking about. I will hover my mouse there and I get this. Click on that particular sticky note, you get this screen. Okay, this is Spider. You can also do help command. Say help of array. When you do help of array, you get this documentation. Now this help command is what you have to try and do in Jupyter Lab. If I type this, here I will say, oh God, okay, my session is gone. Okay, here I'll say, okay, I'll type here. Help of array. Okay, I have not imported it, so it is throwing error. Let me execute this cell. Now, if you execute this, it is document. Now you're using this I, right? Signed integer. So for any package or function that documentation, then help is the command. All right, friends. So we'll wrap up the session. And let tomorrow and discuss more about data structures. In fact, we'll redo arrays as well, right? One-dimensional array as well. All right, let me conclude.